In the aftermath of the Civil War, a new form of bondage emerged in the shape of black codes. These were a set of laws that sought to restrict the rights and freedoms of newly emancipated African Americans. These discriminatory laws laid the groundwork for racial segregation and set the stage for future environmental injustices. As history unfolded, the era of Jim Crow laws arrived, enforcing racial segregation in public spaces, including schools, transportation, and housing. The effects of these laws on communities of color were profound, creating stark disparities in living conditions and access to essential resources. Next came a series of legislative blows. The Dawes Act forcibly uprooted Native Americans from their ancestral lands, while alien land laws restricted property ownership for immigrants, particularly targeting Asian communities. Meanwhile, racially restrictive covenants limited housing opportunities for people of color, further entrenching segregation. One of the most devastating practices was redlining, a discriminatory lending policy that systematically denied loans and insurance to minority communities. The consequences of redlining were far-reaching, affecting housing, education, and economic opportunities for marginalized communities. Finally, the practice of racial zoning designated specific areas for different racial groups. This form of zoning perpetuated segregation, limiting access to quality education, healthcare, and environmental resources for communities of color. Diving deep into the annals of history, Shades of Injustice brings to light the systemic discrimination that has disproportionately affected marginalized communities. It unravels the tangled web of environmental injustices, tracing their roots back to racial and forced segregation. By shedding light on pivotal events and legislation, this documentary provides a comprehensive understanding of how environmental injustices have been deeply intertwined with racial and forced segregation throughout history. It aims to raise awareness, foster dialogue, and inspire action towards a more equitable and just future for all. In conclusion, the historical context of environmental injustices is steeped in racial and forced segregation. From the aftermath of the Civil War, to the era of Jim Crow laws, from the Dawes Act and alien land laws, to historical housing legislation, and from redlining to racial zoning, the legacy of systemic discrimination continues to impact marginalized communities. Shades of Injustice is a stark reminder of the long shadow of history. It is a call to action, a plea for understanding, and a beacon of hope for a more equitable future. As we step into the future, we carry with us the lessons of the past, striving to create a world where environmental justice is not a privilege, but a right for all.